Hey, first grade. Welcome to Science with Miss Conley, where we are talking about the Earth, Moon, and Sun. Today we're going to make observations about the moon and the moon phases. Here are our vocabulary words. I'm going to say the word and you're going to repeat after me. Craters, gravity, full moon, new moon, lava, and oh, Miss Conley sees right here. This is lava. Lava is hot rock that comes from a volcano. And new moon. What are craters? Craters are large bowl-shaped holes, and you're going to see that the moon has lots of craters, and maybe you already know that. Gravity. What's gravity? Well, gravity gives you weight and keeps you on the ground. If you're on the moon, you don't have any gravity, and you'll notice that when we watch our video. Full moon. That's when the moon's whole front face is lit up. So if you look in the sky, you will see a perfect circle of the moon. New moon. That's when the moon comes between the earth and the sun and it's not visible. So you could look up into the sky and you will not see a moon at all. We already talked about lava, and of course we already talked about new moon. Let's think about these questions during our lesson. What does the moon look like to astronauts who visit? What does the moon look like from Earth? We're going to go ahead and watch a video of an astronaut on the moon. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Now, when we're watching the video, we're going to stop after the video and we are going to talk about things that we notice, things that we wonder, and maybe some questions that we might have. Remember, things that you notice or things that you wonder about. This is to have some conversation and maybe make a connection to the things that you might see in the video. The questions that you ask, remember, you don't want to ask yes or no questions like, is the moon round? Those aren't the kinds of questions that really make your brain think. Things that really stretch your brain and make your brain think are questions like, how would you describe the moon? Or how do you think the moon might feel? Let's go ahead and watch our video.
You might look around and see if you see any vesicular basalt.
That's what I'm looking for.
Good show. I told him you were.
What? Okay.
We see that one went all the way in.
Not quite. But there it is, all but about 5 inches.
Okay.
And that one was smooth.
Okay, and John, stand by for a feed water tone.
It's got it.
How's that?
I hope.
Now that you've had a chance to watch the video, go ahead and pause and think about, what does the moon look like to astronauts who visit? And what are some questions that you might have, or maybe some things that you noticed about the video? These are some things that Miss Conley came up with. I wonder how the moon feels. How would you describe the moon's surface? Let's see if the rest of first grade can make some observations about that video, and let's see if they'll add to our slides. We'll check back later. Now that we've had a close-up picture of the moon and what it's like for an astronaut to be on the moon, let's talk about how the moon is from Earth. Let's read, "Tell me why the moon changes shape." We have our table of contents. We have a glossary and an index, so it's probably going to be a nonfiction book, or at least have some facts in it. Full moon over the farm. Nick was excited. He had just arrived at his grandma's farm to spend the summer there. The first night, sitting with Grandma on the front porch, Nick saw a full moon. "Look," he said, "it's so bright tonight and it's a perfect circle." "That's right," his grandma said, "but we don't see a full moon all the time. Away from the bright lights of the city, you can see the moon more clearly, and that's a full moon." Nick thought about that. "I know the moon is a sphere," he said, "just like the sun." "You're right," she said, "but we don't always see it that way. Let's keep watching the moon together, and when you notice it changing, you can draw a little picture on my calendar." That night, Nick drew the moon as a perfect circle. He wondered how long it would stay that way, and what would happen next. Make a guess. Does the moon look the same in the United States as it does in Australia? Visit your library or go online with an adult and find out. The moon may look like a flat circle, but it's more like a ball. 29 days. A week passed. Nick realized that the moon was now the shape of a half circle. "That's weird," he said. "What happened?" "The moon itself is the same size. It always is," Grandma says. "And the sun is still shining on half of it. What changes is how much the sunlight part we can see." She explained that the moon orbits Earth around about every 29 days. The Earth is also orbiting the sun. The lighted surface of the moon will appear bigger or smaller to us, depending upon where the moon is in its orbit. And remember, we said an orbit means it just goes around. We call these different views of the moon the lunar phases. Lunar means moon. Oh, we should have added that to our vocabulary words. "How many lunar phases are there?" Nick asked. "That's a tricky question," Grandma said. "Some people say 4 or 8 or even more. Scientists don't always agree." And here you can see how the moon rotates around or orbits the Earth and the different phases of the moon. The moon goes missing. Soon the moon begins to rise very late at night. Nick went to sleep too early to see it, but then the moon was still there in the morning. One day, a tiny sliver of the moon was visible all day. Grandma explained that this meant a new moon was about to be here. A new moon is when the moon moves between the Earth and the sun. The half facing us is completely dark. This crescent moon is almost near its new moon, where you won't see anything in the sky. "This is a normal part of the orbit?" Nick asked. "The moon is still up there, but without any sunlight on it. The sun is still shining on the half that's not facing us," Grandma reminded him. "We can't see the moon tonight at all." She had set up an easel and was mixing some oil paints. "What are you painting?" Nick asked. Grandma laughed. "It's a surprise. You can't see this tonight either." Ask questions. Do other planets have moons that orbit them? Visit a library or go online with an adult to find the answer. The moon is always orbiting the Earth, even when we can't see it. A few days later, Nick noticed that the moon was back at sunset. He saw a skinny lighted edge of the moon very near the setting of the sun. Grandma said that this was called a crescent moon and pointed out that it was lighted on the right edge. "Bright, right, growing light," She said this came true over the next 2 weeks. Nick could see more and more of the moon each night. More of the lighted side of the moon was facing the Earth. The moon doesn't change shape, but we see it from a different viewpoint. Back to the beginning. Eventually the moon looked full again. It was the same perfect circle Nick had seen the first night of the visit. Wow, Nick said. He drew in the last entry on his chart, a white circle. The moon is back where it started, but he could see that the real moon had shadowy splotches that he hadn't drawn in. What are those big gray spots? Do you see the spots on the moon in this photograph? What do you see? A human face? A rabbit? There are thousands of large craters or holes on the moon, and there could be millions of small craters. I've never gotten close enough to check, Grandma said, smiling, but I read that there are huge lakes of hardened lava. The next morning, Nick's dad came to pick him up. See you later, my little astronomer, Grandma said. She handed him the painting she'd finished. It was Nick staring up at a full moon. A telescope makes something far away seems large and closer. And again, you see the glossary that has all of our vocabulary words. Astronomer, full moon, lava, lunar phases, new moon, orbits, and sphere. Now that we've read our book, we should be able to answer our questions. What does the moon look like to astronauts who visit? What does the moon look like from Earth? Well, the whole book was about what the moon looked like from Earth. Okay, boys and girls, here's your assignment. Talk to an adult about what the moon looks like from Earth. All right, boys and girls.